Tonight, we have a very special episode. We are talking about some Silver Surfer casting for Fantastic Four. We got Star Wars Outlaws, a new trailer. We got Godzilla X Kong, X-Men 97 Episode 3, Invincible Episode 8, and the latest episodes of Shogun. Stay tuned for this fun one episode. That up at the end.
Fun one episode.
Stay tuned for this fun episode.
The Joystick Show.
How's it, Shticklers? The Joystick Show is back to talk story about things we've read, watched, or played. Shakas and Mahalos for sticking around. If you fancy what you hear, please like and subscribe on the platform you frequent. I'm your co-host, Drake. That's Thomas.
What up, what up?
And our third bestie, Scott, is doing things that pay him money, i.e. work. And
Trabajo.
welcome, trabajo, or yeah, that's the
Maybe.
Spanish word for that. Yeah.
That is, yeah. Or would it be trabajar if he's working? God, we gotta know more
Yeah,
Spanish.
I don't know. We'll ask our wives because they speak Espanol, I think.
That is true. Yeah,
Yeah.
we need to practice.
We'll get it
Alright.
in.
We'll
But
get it in.
this is episode 136? 7. Seis is not 7. It's 137? Okay.
Yes, it is 137. I think that's the right Spanish. I'm not exactly sure. But we got some news. Well, let's jump right into it because
Okay.
Fantastic Four has found their Silver Surfer.
Ooh.
We have Julia Garner,
Julia.
best known for Rudy in Ozark and also in Inventing Anna.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
My thoughts are I don't know shit about fuck. My
Yes.
favorite line from Ozark.
One of the best lines ever.
She's I mean this actress has a lot going for her. I think she's a wonderful actress. She did a beautiful job in Ozark. The things that she's done post were really good as well. I think she's a great addition. I wonder, is she gonna be painted silver? I'm questioning some of the things in terms of costume design, but I think overall she's a wonderful choice.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I don't care either way. Everybody knows the Norn Rad version of Silver Surfer. If they go with they're in an alternate dimension, and she's Shabal, I think. I'm forgetting what the character's name is, but there's a female version. Basically, Norn Rad's wife becomes the Herald of Galactus. If she's that version, because they're in another galaxy, it makes a ton of sense to me.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I don't think they're gonna have to paint her silver. If anything, she's gonna have a bunch of dots put all over her body. She's definitely gonna be full CGI. So, yeah, I mean, she's a great actress. She has a shit ton of range. Let's see what she can do.
And she also does not know shit about fuck. So
Right.
that's such a great
Yeah.
line. Okay.
It's
I
one
keep
of the
thinking about
best. I know. I need to go back and finish Ozark. I know that's probably terrible to say, but she was one of the best parts from what I remember of the show. So, yeah, and she's got a ton of range, and I think she won some Emmys for those
I
shows.
think-
So.
Yeah, did she win a no, she won Best Supporting Actress.
Oh wow, there you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like the way she transformed into Anna from that one show, like she's got a ton of range. I want to see her kind of be more of a stoic character. So that will be kind of interesting, but I think she could do it.
Yeah, she has a lot of power behind her as well too. Like her features are very striking, her acting is very solid. So even if she is gonna be imposing without needing to use a lot of dialogue, and then when she does dialogue, it's probably gonna be mucho mana. So I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, Julia Garner, Silver Surfer. I think we're all kind of on board, and it's too soon to tell what's going to happen, but I
Yeah.
think her acting ability will shine through. I don't know if that's a Silver Surfer pun or not, but I think it will. All right, we got another trailer coming up. We're into trailers.
Ooh.
And Star Wars Outlaws just dropped today. It's an open world game set in the Star Wars universe. You don't play a Jedi, you play a scoundrel, as they call it out in the trailer. What are your thoughts on the trailer? What are your thoughts or what are you hoping for in the game?
I'm hoping for what I guess what we've been talking about for a long time in and outside of the podcast, which is a Star Wars open world, like intergalactic, like run around, right? So what I'm thinking is sort of like what was happening when Ubisoft did like Ghost Recon, but a little bit more in depth, and then have a little bit more of that what is that? What is that game, that Xbox exclusive Bethesda Star?
Oh, Starfield.
Yeah, Starfield, like a Starfield openness, but a Star Wars like base, and different pathways that you can go into, and then hopefully they add on a lot of extended content, just like Ubisoft did with Ghost Recon, where they had Predator and other Ubisoft characters within that game. It would be nice to see other characters pop up as secondary or tertiary characters, and also give you the pathway to be, the best Han Solo you can be, or maybe even become a
Just like Han
small
Solo.
level. Yeah. Oh, dang.
There you go.
Ooh la
Practice your
la.
Spanish.
And maybe have some availability to, do a little bit of force power, maybe even, turn yourself into a Jedi, maybe. But I
I
think the sky's the limit.
Yeah. I don't know if they're gonna go with the force power, but truthfully, I think all I want is the Red Dead Redemption in Star Wars.
Mm,
Like,
mm.
give me Red Dead Redemption, and set in the Star Wars universe, Star Wars guns, the aliens, all that deep storytelling. We're good. And I think we're gonna get it. They have. I was sitting in the panel at San Diego Comic Con last year, and because there was the actor strikes and the writer strikes, it was just like video game news and anime and comic books, which are all great too. They're freaking awesome, but they didn't have like the big movie stars or anything like that. So they were talking about this game, and it's really focused on like a deep storytelling for this character, along with her like cute sidekick Nyx, who's like that salamander looking thing. I think it's just gonna be, yeah, I mean, that's what I hope. Just give me Red Dead Redemption. You can fly to
Yeah.
different planets. You can drive around from different cities on the planet. You get into some trouble, side missions, but the overall mission is like, it seems like she just wants to be free. She's not trying to fight the Empire, but the Empire just getting in the way. And I think that's going to be
Mm.
a really cool a place for us to be, because it's really worked for Andor.
Oh yeah, totally. Um, I think it can also go into a lot of that underworld that we talked about, and that we saw, like you talked about in Andor, where we can see a lot of the
Yeah,
background that's taking place outside of the Empire, et cetera, et cetera.
like the
One of the
lower
big
levels of
things,
Coruscant.
the
So
lower,
grimy,
the
the
bottom,
lowers.
the basement Coruscant. Um, so supposedly this was supposed to be released this year, potentially in August or so, but with a lot of the games that have been released recently not necessarily hitting fruition or doing well, whether that's fans not really liking it, or devs not really promoting it, etc. We'll see. This one has a lot of clout behind it, and it has a lot of hype, so I'm hoping that it lives up to the expectation, because I want to play this so bad.
Yeah, man. I think it's going to be super good. From what I saw of it, I think it has so much potential.
Oh,
And I think that the story alone will bring people in. Um, will the gameplay stand out? I mean, I hope it should, because of like the fact that it's Star Wars. We got laser guns, we got spaceships, we got all that kind of stuff. So I think you're right. I think a mixture of Starfield and Red Dead Redemption, and maybe a little bit of Helldivers, where the planets do feel unique, will be so sick. So
yeah,
I'm pumped
yeah.
about it. Yeah, it looks like it is coming out August 30th. We will see, but it is under Massive Entertainment and published by Ubisoft. So you can take it or leave it on that. Like, some people like Ubisoft, some people don't. But I don't know, man. It looks sick. I'm on board.
I am also on board, and I have taken off with the ship, so I cannot go back.
Okay, sounds good. Point of no return.
Yeah.
All right, we got a ton of reviews tonight, so we're just gonna jump right into reviews. I saw Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire, and it's
Cool.
what you expect. Like, I had super low expectations. Did not plan on this movie being good in any way. Still don't know what the story was. I no idea, but there was human characters in it, and
Oh,
they
okay.
did things, and sometimes they said some funny things, and sometimes they got emotional. But ultimately, it was just biding time till we got to monster fights, and there were some epic monster fights in this movie.
Okay. Does it? I never had really high expectations for this. I think, as you and Scott has said previously, it's kind of like a turn off your brain and eat some popcorn and just get into some entertainment. But is it reminiscent of the Godzilla you grew up to love? And did you enjoy Godzilla and Kong working together in this new realm?
Yes. This is the Fast and Furious of monster movies.
Okay.
You know, where the
It's about
first one kind
family. Mm.
of yeah, and more so it's just gotten ridiculous. It was, it went 0 to 100 in like the first 3 movies, and now it's like 0 to a billion. Like
Oh
just
wow.
stupid ridiculous stuff, right?
Okay.
So they're doubling down on the hollow earth theory. Kong is living out his not so best life, trying to like he gets a toothache. Sorry, spoiler alert for the movie. He gets a toothache, and that's what brings him back to the surface.
The dentist.
Yeah, the dentist. For real. I'm not kidding. I was like, wow, they're really doing this? I'm like, all right, they're doing this. So this brings in Dan Stevens. You know him from Eurovision. He played that ridiculous singer. He was also in Legion. He played Legion. He's just awesome. I love Dan Stevens, so I'm always on board with that. And he plays this like big monster vet, basically.
Trapper.
And yeah, Trapper, exactly. So he comes in there and it's just fun. As soon as I started thinking about certain things like how does the light work or how does gravity work in this situation or whatever, I was like, nope, don't do it. Shut off your brain. You're thinking too much about this. It's not gonna make sense. And once I kept doing that, like talking myself out of overthinking it, I enjoyed the shit out of this movie. There's a monster battle at the end that's a tag team situation, and Godzilla and Kong they're still not friends in the beginning
Oh.
when they meet, which I dig that because it's like they weren't really friends. They just had a bigger evil, and then like they took care of it, and they're like, all right, we're going our separate ways.
Yeah.
It's still very much the case here, but yes, Godzilla pink powers up. I still don't know how or why, but that happens. Godzilla, for reasons I do understand, gets a gauntlet because he gets like frostbite on one of his arms fighting this ice monster. Then they
Cool.
put on this like metal gauntlet that's pretty sick. It's
Yeah.
just it's the size of a building, doesn't make sense, but
So it's like Thanos worthy.
yes. Yeah, yeah. It would have nowhere to put the Infinity Stones, but I mean, it looked dope. And the tag team action is really freaking cool. There's different parts where there's one part in particular where Kong, you probably saw it in the trailer, jumps on Godzilla's back and uses him to like springboard off to punch the other monster. That was dope. But shout out to the little monster in this movie. Can I tell you guys a spoiler? Because
Yeah, of course.
It's one of the best parts, and it's also so freaking hilarious. So you see in the trailers, there's like a little Kong that comes out, and he's red.
Yeah.
And at first he's like, oh, so cute. He's got these big eyes and like, oh. And it turns out to be a little shit. He like backstabs him, brings Kong into like this other gray monster zone where they all try to jump Kong. And the little monster sees he's kicking all the other, let's just call them gangsters. Like all the gangsters who are mobbing him, he just like is getting a little, he's whooping their ass. So then the
Yeah.
little Kong jumps and tries to jump in the fight. And Kong beats the shit out of him, grabs him, and uses him as a club on the other monster, and just
Love it.
starts like using him as a weapon, and chucks him at this guy at the end. And then they become best friends at the end.
Okay. Well, that cool, 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 cool.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, but I love it. You don't have to think about it. There's no deep
Yeah.
story. I don't know if I like even if I said that, I don't know if I spoiled much. It's just like just watch the cool shit happen.
Yeah. It's I believe there's a potentiality of there being a sequel just because it's so fun. I believe Adam Wingard expressed a little bit of interest. But in terms of the character development, would you want to see more original IP Godzilla like Mothra or Mechagodzilla or other big threats come in?
Ghidorah.
Yeah, like all those guys, because that could be an extension of the go bigger, Fast and the Furious style.
If you're looking for that, they have that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you will see some of those characters come back.
Yeah.
And they also have leveled up. It's like I think somebody said, I don't know if it was the writer, director, producer, something like that, was like we took a lot of inspiration from Dragon Ball Z. And if you know that, you're like, oh, there it is there. Okay, that's them powering up. That's this character going Super Saiyan. Like it perfectly aligns with that type of thought process. So if you like Dragon Ball Z, you know Dragon Ball Z, and you also like monsters, just think about those combined, and that's what this movie is.
I was thinking, like, what if the Goku Vegeta situation, Godzilla and Kong end up like fusion, but then it turns out like Kong or Godzilla is like a female and then like interbreed, and then they have like this like Godzilla Kong hybrid that just destroys. Is that too
Ooh.
weird?
No, let's go for it. I mean, when
Yeah.
you're using like little monkeys or apes as weapons, like anything's
Yeah,
possible.
anything is possible. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I'm super on board with that. It Yeah, again, don't know what the story was about. Shout out to Dan Stevens and Brian Tyree Henry because they were awesome in it. That's Godzilla and
Sick.
Kong.
Watch it, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, does it need to be seen in theaters? It'll feel more impactful, but the thing is, like, this is also not Godzilla minus one. Like, Godzilla minus one was just a good movie. Oh, I would even
Cinematically,
say
story wise.
totally. I'd
Yeah,
say
yeah,
even a
yeah.
great movie. The special effects, like, this is just a CGI fest, and it's still awesome, but it doesn't have the depth or the impact that Godzilla minus one has. So, just gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
Yes. All right, let's get into the next review here. We got X-Men 97 episode 3.
Ooh.
And
Fire
4.
Made
Did
Flesh?
you watch 4?
I did not watch 4 yet.
Okay, we'll briefly talk about 4 for a little bit. But
Okay.
yes, Fire Made Flesh. We got the culmination of what happened with Madeline Pryor and Jean Grey. We see that Jean Grey's back and everything starts going to hell. Literally, they all get sucked into hell. Maddie's messing with the mansion, and then Magneto leads a strike force to go save Nathan Summers from Sinister. That's kind of episode 3. What'd you think about it?
I just liked seeing Sinister. He's one of my favorite villains just because of his aesthetic. I liked how they brought him back, slightly updated, but still, OG Mr. Sinister. I would
Yeah.
love to see him in the, live action because that would be super sick.
That's the rumor for the movie.
Ooh.
So when the new X-Men movie drops, maybe 2026, 2027, the rumor is Sinister will be the villain.
Yes. Well, I'm super stoked for that. What I'm also stoked for is that in episode 3, I believe we got to see one of your second favorite characters in X-Men, 4J.
Yeah, I do like Forge. Yes, quite a bit.
Is he number 2 behind Cyclopses?
I gotta go Cyclops, Magneto.
Uh,
Yeah, maybe Forge and Cannonball are in there. I know that's kind of weird. Most people don't like Sam Guthrie, but I like his power set. I just think that's so cool.
Yeah.
But Forge has got to be up there too because just the way his brain works, you find out more about it in episode 4, which I
Yeah.
do dig. He kind of gives a brief explanation of how his mind works. But going back to episode 3, there is a full storyline from, I believe, the 80s, I want to say, called Inferno. And they adapted the entire Inferno storyline, however many books that was, into one episode. I think they did a good job, but there was one part that made me chuckle, which was she just goes, "I will show them my Inferno." And then that, like, you're like, okay, she just said the name of the book just to call it out, which
And roll credits. Here we go.
yeah, I was like, okay, I know where we're pulling this story from.
Yeah.
But there was that. There was also the origin of Nathan Summers. If you know anything about this character, he does become Cable.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there was that. I dug the hell out of this episode. I think it continued the streak. We also got to see all of their deepest fears. We see that Morph is still terrified of Sinister. And even when Morph is talking about how evil Sinister is, Morph transforms into like the male version that we saw in the original animated series with the like purple bags under their eyes so that they show us like there's some trauma here from it, which I really liked that. There was a beautiful moment between Jean and Wolverine where he's trying to pull her out of her, like, I guess, like, psychic nightmare or whatever. And he's like, "Jean, focus on me. Like, dig into my brain. Yeah, look at what, you mean to me." And she's like, "I mean all that much to you?" And he's like, "More." Like, that was a beautiful moment.
I know, but
It
the
was a
way
very
you said it
terrible
was like,
retelling, but that was like a beautiful
More.
moment. I loved it. I was like,
shit.
damn, this is beautiful. It's sweet.
Yeah.
We got some sick power-ups, too.
Yeah.
Bishop getting charged by Cyclops.
I like how not only the team up mashup and like power combinations between the individuals, but I really like how they're redescribing some of their powers. They're illustrating it and saying it in such a way that's like not new but not unartistic. Like the way that they're describing how they do things and the way that they're showing what they're capable of doing is a lot more My Hero Academia to me than it was initially in X-Men. Regular.
You're right. That's such a great call out because I think, I know I'm hinting to, are you okay with a little bit of spoiler for episode
yeah.
4?
Milk me.
Episode 4 really starts with Jubilee. It's called Motendo / Life Death Part 1. And the first part of episode 4 is about Jubilee. It's her birthday. And she just wants to go to the arcade, but Magneto's like, no, we gotta train. Like, there's enemies out there. Like, we gotta get back to training. And she's like, no, it's my birthday. I want to go to the arcade. Even though she's an adult now, but whatever.
She's
I still
legal.
play video games, so
Duh.
yes, exactly. So that she gets sucked into Motendo along with Roberto da Costa, Sunspot, and she kind of relives a bunch of things that happened to her in the animated series, like her going to Genosha and becoming a slave, or them going to the Savage Land, or going to Asteroid M. And at one point, this is really cool. You see her future self, Absissa, and Obsissa kind of shows you what her power set could look like if she leveled it up, and it's really fucking cool. She could do like some really badass stuff. She kind of uses her powers to almost skate on the ground. She
Ooh.
creates these razor blade esque things that are able to like slice through stuff. And so yes, it is kind of like My Hero Academia or like just anime. Like you're getting to see like the upper level of what their powers could do if they really trained and really like put it to the test. Like we saw it in Cyclops. We've seen, I think Storm's always a badass, but we got to see more of it on Storm. Even in Bishop in the beginning of like absorbing the blast, or in episode 3, absorbing Cyclops' blast and shooting it back at the monsters. Morph has been able to transform into a bunch of different shit and use all their powers. So I feel like, yeah, we're getting to see the upper level of these things. And that next episode is so cool. And if you're a 90s kid, which we are,
Duh.
growing up, oh God, you're going to love it, man. It just like reminds you of birthday parties and Chuck E. Cheese and
Chuck E.
Adventure
Cheese.
Zone, or all that stuff.
Discovery Zone, dude.
Discovery Zone, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been really great. Episode 4, I loved it. I'm still gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I don't think I can go below a 9 for the show, but I'm biased. And but it does a lot of adapting. I also read the life death story going into the part 1 of it, where it's basically Storm is depowered now, and it's her kind of trying to get out of her depression, but also Forge trying to pull her out. And then there's a love story that kind of blossoms. It's good. They take a lot of inspiration from the comics. It's pretty close, but I still think the comics did it a little better. I mean, there was more time.
Yeah.
Because she's so depressed in the comics. I can't get out of bed. She's like almost to the point of like wanting to unlive herself. And I think he's kind of abrasive to it, and yet he cares so much for her. And also, he personally makes the gun that takes away her powers in the comics. In the show, we saw that it was the Executioner using that technology. So it's a little less personal. I like
Yeah.
how it's more personal in the comic.
Yeah.
And it's
But-
just so, yeah, go.
And I was saying, but I mean, this is technically part 1, so maybe in part 2 we find out that something different.
Yes,
Is
something
that-
different
sorry.
could happen. You're right.
Yeah.
It kind of ends in this way though, that it becomes a little bit more about Forge, if you know anything about the villain
Oh.
called the Adversary. But I think they're just the last part of episode 4, part 1 of Life Death could have been just about their love blossoming, and I think they could have ended right where she discovers he's the one that made the gun. Like, there's just more like development they could have had there
Okay.
for their love story. There's a lot of great Storm development, and that voice actress is still killing it. Like, that's the voice of Storm in my brain, just like Mark Hamill's the voice of the Joker, or Kevin Conroy's the voice of the Batman. Like,
Duh.
she's so good. But I liked it. I loved it almost, but it just like, to me, I was a little biased again reading the comic and then going into the episode. I'm like, they could have just done a little bit more. Like even 5 minutes more in the episode, I think would have been great.
Do you think that would they have been able to do it justice if they continued it back in the 90s? Do you think they would have been able to tell the story as good as they did today, but not necessarily as good as they did in the comic books?
That is a good question, and I do not think it. If it was a whole episode devoted to that, yes, but also like I don't know how, like what they would be allowed to do in the 90s, right? They couldn't talk about the Nazis or the Holocaust or any of that
Yep,
stuff,
yep.
right? And so I don't know how much they could have talked about depression or, you know, unliving thoughts or
Yeah.
non-existential thoughts or something like that. And So I don't know. No, I think they were allowed and were able to do a better job now than they would have ever been able to do if it was back in the 90s.
Okay, so there's some pros, some cons, but
True.
overall doing better than before, which is always good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I still continue to like it. Yeah, I'm such a fan. I don't know if I'm not gonna be able to enjoy this show, but they just keep elevating things. Every episode, there's something that gets
Yeah.
elevated from the past.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Do you
Yeah.
think you're gonna go broke on purchasing merch? Or
I have bought quite a bit of stuff.
yeah, show the
Yeah,
crowd.
quite a bit of stuff. I got, new Funkos for Cyclops,
I
new
mean,
Funkos
duh.
for Magneto. I've bought some shit. So
I
they
mean,
got me.
I think I imagine walking into your house, and then as you open the door, there's like a cyclops that's descending from like a red wire, and then like goes to his feet, and then he bows.
Right, all the way to the
Welcome.
ground.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Dude, like I create like a elementary school diorama of like
Oh,
Cyclops, but it's a massive box.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
lie, I would like that,
I
but
mean,
my wife would not let that be in the entrance of the house, and probably for good reasons.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But just you could next time you do your lease, you can write into the contract, and she can put it in there.
Must have Cyclops diorama at front door.
Yeah, or else you got to take off so much money from the lease.
My landlord's like, why would I agree to that? Like, I'm not gonna do that. Like, beat it. Um,
Hilarious.
that'd be great. But yeah, any other thoughts on your end on episode 3 or anything from X-Men 97 so far?
Um, I think I just want to reiterate how well it's doing, and even to make mention the fact that they may not be sticking extremely close to the original comic book run, but with all the time that's come in between, I don't know that we would enjoy X-Men 97 had it just continued on to where it is now back then. And to have all of this life experience and then to kind of be reminisced about all the things that they're bringing forward, and we can really appreciate the fact that how far it's come, but it's still so relevant and still so powerful. So if you're not watching X-Men 97, please do that shit.
Yeah, exactly. They're crushing it. They're just bringing back everything that was great about the show and just elevating it, modernizing it. Can't give this show enough props. Like, I know people are like, cartoons, it's for kids, but like, I don't feel like this one is. Like, I'm getting a lot of drama online saying that this isn't for kids, and I'm not saying it's not for kids. I'm just saying adults can really appreciate
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
version of it.
I mean, there's no
And
boobs, so how can you say it's not for kids? Like, what are you talking about?
I know they're just like covered up in yellow spandex, but
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
can't see them. So, all right.
Rogue, where's your booty? Okay.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Justice for Rogue's booty. That's all I'm saying.
Hilarious.
All right. We got Invincible episode 8, which was the finale of this season. Were you able to check it out?
I wasn't able to check it out, but I have read a lot of reviews about it, and I'm excited to see if it hits the hit. I was gonna make a cool pun, but I don't remember. So moving on.
If it hit some faces.
Yeah.
Yeah. It did. It hit. I will say it hit. Like, it is a very tense episode. There's drama, there's stress,
Yeah.
there's violence that we expect with Robert Kirkman. There's some really cool references in it to Spider-Man, to Batman, to yeah, just the whole universe of Invincible overall. Oh, The Walking Dead. That's the other one I left out.
Oh, cool, cool, cool.
So yeah, he ends up fighting the guy at the beginning of the series who has that really big head who can make portals. He comes back and is basically trying to hold Mark and his mom and his new half brother hostage, and he's just messing with them the whole time. And Mark's trying to save them. He keeps getting shot into these other universes, and it's pretty fucking cool. Like, it's sick. There's a dinosaur world he goes to.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a world where the ground is like 8 feet lower than our world, for reasons that make sense in it. It's like every possibility in the multiverse, right? And
Okay, yeah,
so
yeah.
he goes to like a bunch of them, and it's pretty sick. They probably took some lessons from Multiverse of Madness where
Oh.
They were just jumping through worlds rather than like living them for a
Staying
second.
in them. Yeah, yeah.
Totally. This is when you get to live in each one of them for like a little bit of time, like a couple minutes at least. So it makes it feel like he really does have powers to kind of go through the entire multiverse. But we get to see that in every other multiverse too, like Mark sides with his dad and is a villain. This is one of the only universes where he's actually a good guy. And it's just really, really freaking good. He takes it to a whole nother level that I think going forward is going to change Mark as a hero, as a person forever.
Because Robert Kirkman wrote this one, right? Or directed this one?
He's a co-writer. I think they have like a showrunner and everything, but he definitely has helped write some of the stories or adapt some of the stories
Yeah.
for the show.
I mean, from what I was reading, because I have not watched it yet, I'm going to. This one really has that air of like Robert Kirkman juice all over it.
Yes.
And I'm really kind of enjoying. It's almost like a cross between our prototypical heroes and comics, but then a little bit of juice from like The Boys or Gen V, where we're getting like kind of atypical stories, but told in a way that we're really involved. Like this is one of the first comic book or animated comic series that really draws you in. Right, you have like an emotional investment in these characters from what you would consider straight scratch, right? Because it's not like we know these characters as good as we know Batman, because we see Batman everywhere, and we care about Batman for different reasons. But with this, Robert Kirkman just does a really good job at showing us things that we don't normally see and making us give a shit. And he's doing a real good job at that, man.
Yeah, you right on that. It's like
Yeah.
and Seth Rogen, like Seth Rogen's a producer on The Boys, on Gen V, and in Invincible, and like the way he's kind of going about comic book stuff. I mean, he's really making it for adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, why does that keep coming up? I feel like I'm stuck on this. Like,
Yep.
these comic cartoons are for adults or for kids. But, anyways, this one is for adults, and is pretty violent, pretty bloody.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kirkman is all over this episode. Even the last episode too. There's like so many great meta jokes in there.
Yeah,
That Scott and Frank talked about in the last one, but. Oh boy, it is setting up a really incredible season 3. Mark is going to be different. Relationships have kind of hit their end. Other possibilities of what is to come have popped up. We see also that Alan the alien and his dad, Omni-Man, is kind of stuck in this prison, like a Viltrumite prison.
Yeah.
And let's see, Mark's dad kind of denounces his Viltrumitism.
Viltrumism?
Viltrumist? I don't know. Viltrumian? I don't know. Whatever they call themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good, man.
It's good,
And it's a really solid finale. And yeah, it's just crazy. We're going to have to wait, another year and a half for Invincible again. But
I know. Son of a bitch. Do you think Angstrom is a definitive villain? Across the things that we've all seen, right? We know Magneto is crazy, Mr. Sinister is crazy, Dr. Doom's crazy. Joker is like elite, but do you think Angstrom fits into that vibe of like all-time villains?
let's see. Angstrom is the guy that we're talking about that makes all the portals, right?
Yeah, he's Portal Man.
Yeah. You will have your answer, and the answer is no.
Oh, sick.
But you'll see why.
Okay. Because he's just a human, and he has a heart condition and also diabetes from eating all of the candies.
Oh, does he? Wow. Okay.
I don't know. I just made that up. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I was like, damn, they really go that in depth in the comic? That's crazy.
Wow, Robert Kirkman.
Yeah. Wow.
Golf
these
clap.
characters are so fleshed out, man. Yeah. He got a D once in math in third grade. Like,
And
just
that-
didn't change his
That
whole
helped him to
trajectory
be
of his
who he
life.
was. Yep.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Robert Kirkman, man, he's a storyteller.
He sure is. Yeah, you'll get the answer there, but there is a Viltrumite warrior. I'm like blanking on her name right now, that we see, I think, in episode 6 or 7. And I think she's going to be the bigger villain, and also the Viltrumites, because nobody is there conquering Earth, right? They know that they have Omni-Man. They know that Mark isn't going to kill or take over it. So I think it's all leading to a giant battle with the Viltrumites, and I don't know who's going to survive it.
maybe. Yeah. Good luck. Good luck, everybody. Viltrumites are pretty strong, man. They just rip people's arms and bodies off. So
Yeah, it sure do. But yeah, we'll probably revisit it when Scott comes back because I know he loves Invincible. So we'll probably revisit episode 8 and might give you a little time to catch up for it. But all in all, great finale to a show. Still, oh man, looking forward to that again. And it's one of those things I could read the comics and could get a hint as to what's coming, but I just love not knowing. For some reason, the Amazon Prime comic book shows, like I don't want to know.
yeah.
The Boys, Gen V, this Invincible, like I love kind of being in the dark about it and just seeing what they come up with. And yeah, they're coming up with some great shit. So yeah, definitely check that out if you haven't watched it.
Keep it going, Amazon. Give us all this cool new content that are comic book related. Because they did Vox Machina.
Yeah, Vox Machina, yeah.
Vox Machina. They've been
Right.
doing this, and then they do Gen V and Boys, and I think they did another couple of things that are just on there. But
Yeah, like some power show or something
yeah. Like,
that
keep
I
it-
tried and just didn't vibe with at all.
It makes sense. You have so much. You have Disney style money. Make cool
True.
stuff, please. Thank you.
Absolutely. Speaking of cool stuff, let's get into Shogun.
Oh, Shogun.
Right.
Okay. So last we let off was on episode 6, or Oroku, as we would. Is that the one?
Yeah. We'll go Roku and a little bit of Shichi.
Oh, Shichihachi. So some things to kind of recap. It's when like Mariko and Blackthorn navigate their hidden romance and their tension, and Toranaga kind of manipulates that relationship for a strategic advantage, like he does. As we get further along the line, you think like, oh wow, Toranaga, and then there's this point in episode 8, I believe, where you're just like, wow, this dude's a mad genius. He's like Sun Tzu, but like times a trillion. It's
Quite
nuts.
the compliment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Also in episode 6, you have like that Mariko and Ochiba, and they kind of have like a past together. I believe Mariko and Ochiba's dad was the one that Mariko's dad killed. I think, if I'm getting that correctly.
Yeah. Somehow their dads were related in a sense, like someone got murdered or yeah, I'm not exactly
Yeah.
sure on that relationship.
And the reason
What do we know?
What do we know? What is that? Buntaro! He married Mariko, and that was kind of to save Mariko's life, but that was also at the behest of Toranaga. So you can kind of see like these interweavings of like long-term planning and discipline, and it is beautiful as it unlays itself. And then also you see kind of Kiku's role as a courtesan and how it impacts Blackthorn and Mariko's attraction and deeper connection for each other.
She's like reading them like a
Dude,
book,
bruh.
and that was really, I love that scene. I think that was such a cool scene, showing how she's like, oh, I see that there's something between you. I see that there's not supposed to be, but like this is a place you can do it, and let me kind of guide you in that direction.
Yeah.
Just puppeteer
dude.
style.
Well, just like the idea of, well, so when we look at Shogun as a whole, it's very much a kind of a showing of like the shogunate and like the intricacy of Japanese culture back then in the feudal system, and also like strategery. But the underlying tones that you're seeing is that even though women in this time and place are viewed as property and can be commanded by their lords and their husbands, they still have immense amount of power. And we know in 7 and 8, like Ochiba has power, Mariko has power, Kiku has so much power. It's the
Yeah.
power of the V, you know?
Yeah. I kind of want to push back. Like they have power, but in indirect ways.
Yes.
Like they
yes.
can't like overtly use
Yeah.
like the but like who the only person that kind of does in some ways is Toranaga. He's the only one that has kind of like overt power. Like even Buntaro is kind of stuck to what he can do being under the rule of Toranaga.
Hi.
Like Blackthorn, Like even though he's getting all of these like promotions basically and these high titles and great perks, like all he wants is to get his men, get his ship, and get out. And he doesn't have that. So he has kind of little power. His son, Toranaga's son, like he doesn't. He kind of does. Like he's in charge of things, but quickly his dad can take it away. And like I love the line that Mariko says, which is like men can choose their wars. Like women are just always at war.
Yeah.
Like so they're always kind of fighting for everything they get. And I think that's the story with Mariko and Ochiba. Like at the end of the day, Mariko wishes that she would just be done, be free, she kind of wants, like you could tell she wants to have a free life, but the culture suppresses her. The rule under Toranaga, who cares about her, kind of suppresses her. And also like Ochiba is like she's kind of stuck. Like the way she gained power was by like hooking up with guys and like being really smart. And she kind of had to like fight for her power. And even the guy who they're up against, mainly who's like against Tonaga, like she's kind of manipulating him. It's the only way that she can have power. She has to like do it through people. So like, yes, but also like, no.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. You hit on the nail when it was when you talked about indirect power. The influence they have over men and how they're thinking, and I believe it's in episode 7 where the owner of the courtesan tea shop,
Brothel. Yeah.
the brothel, she talks to Toranaga. She asks for a stick of time, which is essentially like a
Can I get a
sen
sec?
yeah, like a senko, like the stick that they burn for certain things. And so
Oh.
she has a stick of time, which I mean, I don't know.
Oh,
I feel
that's
like
a
that. Yeah.
cool saying. I didn't
Yeah.
know what that meant. Oh shit, that's
So
awesome. Like those
those like
incense. Like
yeah,
when
yeah.
when people think it's incense or whatever. Oh, okay.
Those
Oh
little
yeah.
small details. And she talks to Toranaga about what she would like to do moving forward, and she hinted towards, oh, I thought this and this and this. I
Mhm.
thought this was your plan. And then Toranaga's like, that's not my plan. And she's like, oh, well, I must have misunderstood. Because she was asking for land so that she could create those types of tea houses everywhere.
Mhm.
Because she came up from the gutter and now she's one of the most powerful women or rich women in the vicinity. And the fact that you later on find out that she wasn't wrong about Toranaga's plans, but the fact that she was able to see them gives a lot of light to what Kiku and the courtesans are capable of seeing, both emotional and strategery planning out, and that adds to the allure of women having way more, I think, depth than the men in this society, as it's been shown in Shogun.
Yeah, definitely. There's this level of they have to think like the guys kind of are thinking not Toranaga or not like some of the other people who are fighting for power, but the guys are just trying to survive like day by day. And I think you can say the same about the women, but their plans are in steps like 3 to 10, where the
Mm,
guys' motives seem to be steps 1 through 3,
yeah.
and like they yeah, there's just this really smart way they're showing like how women behaved or like had to operate in this culture. And like I love that. Like Ochiba seems like she's such the evil Japanese woman like you'd see in an anime. Her voice is very much like the evil
Yeah,
villain.
yeah, yeah.
Like the way she kind of operates, the way she moves. Mariko is like it just feels so suppressed in a lot of ways. Like she wants to be with Blackthorn. Obviously, there's actual like love there, where there's duty with Buntaro, but like she's such a good character because he also has to like look and be a kind of conduit with Tonaga too, and owes him something. It's like her character is so fucking good. I love the way she's acting in it. I love the way they're writing her character. I love the way
Mm.
that she just has to balance all these different roles in this world that she lives in. It's so interesting because she keeps saying like, let me like be free, let me do like seppuku and then be done. And they're like, no, no, you're too valuable. Like I think Toranaga even cares about her too, and he's like, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Like you need to do this. This is the way we behave in this society. Like you suck it up and you got to do your duty.
Yeah.
And that is so interesting. Like I don't know. Yeah, I just love the way they're doing things with her character.
Yeah, I agree. It's the very much so like the you know uh almost like the concept of working within the lines, finding the different angle.
Right. Could it also be like the way it interacts with like the eightfold fence?
Yeah, definitely. Just because you are, I don't know how to explain this real good, but you are in the sense what your society dictates, right? You're in terms of the class and like how you are perceived and what your perception is of other things and people. However, you also have your own internal Sichumahu that maybe goes aligned with, but also goes against what society and like those norms are. And so within the idea of the eightfold fence of having these fences structured in between to keep you the most willing, you'll see that with Mariko when she's like, please just, I just want to be done with this shit. And Toranaga's like, stop being a fucking like just just like
So, fucking suck it
courage
up,
up,
boy.
dog. Courage up, bro.
Yeah.
And it is true. Like, you'll see a lot of like seppuku and harakiri type situations, and to a lot of people, that's like meaningless death. And I think that's a reoccurring theme in 7 and 8, where it's like, oh, well, what is all this death for? And
Right.
then it goes
Right.
back into not only your loyalty to your clan and your family or whatever, but also your loyalty to Japan.
Hmm.
And there's this really good quote in 8 that I can't specifically remember, but it was Mariko was like, loyalty has no loyalty is because it has no end, or something to that effect. And it's
Mm.
like it is kind of true in that sense. Like, even though your loyalty may be to this one thing, it doesn't mean that you're conscripted. I mean, it literally does mean you're conscripted in that idea, but it doesn't mean you're conscripted to that one fate. Like, there's always ways around still within the pathway, and it's just upon you to work and figure it out. And there's another quote too. It's like
Mhm.
something about like fate can only be handled by some, like, for less of a better term, like intelligent people, um, like
Right.
making your fate, etc. I don't know how to, I
Yeah,
should have
yeah, I
read
know.
that.
I know which. Yeah, I don't remember the
Yeah, yeah,
quote
yeah,
specifically either, but I know which one you're talking about. And
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
there
yeah,
is
yeah.
such an interesting idea. Like it kind of goes back. I don't remember if it was like episode 2 or 3 where Mariko's talking to Blackthorn, and they have that idea of like freedom,
Uh,
right? Where it's like, oh, like you guys aren't free, and she's like, oh, the fact that you're like striving for this freedom makes you unfree. And like that, I feel
mm,
like
mm,
that line's always gonna stick with me in a sense because she's also showing when it comes to fate or your destiny or whatever, it's not only is about how you work and operate, but it's also about your perception.
yeah,
So if you perceive things differently, you might be the thing that's getting in the way of you having what you want in a sense. From
yeah,
like a
yeah, yeah.
not from like a physical standpoint, but from like an emotional standpoint. And like,
Oh,
man, she's dropped some bangers in this show.
bruh.
And yeah, and I think in episode 7 and 8, you see so much of it. Again, going back to the tea house, the way she's pouring the sake and the way she's talking to Mariko and the way she
Mm,
flashes back to her being a kid and seeing her dad, which is what takes her out of the intimate moment with Blackthorn. I think if she doesn't flash back to that, she does go with him into the room and shit goes the way it goes. And that whole thing of Toranaga setting them up because he knows that there's something there is
yeah,
really interesting too. Of like, oh, you should take him. So now it's at a professional way. Like she's doing her job translating for him, but really it gives them time to like figure out their shit. Like,
yeah,
are they emotionally linked? Are they going to be intimate again? Like
yeah.
it's so smart. And this show doesn't just hand it to you. It shows
Mm-mm.
you these little moments and it lets you decide on how that plays out and what it means. And I think that's like the amazing part about the show
Yeah.
and the writing and the subtlety of it all,
Yeah.
much like I think Japanese culture was at that time. There's so
Mm-mm-mm.
much subtlety in between the politeness, the cultural practices, the bowing, the way you sit, the way you walk, the way you address people, the way
Mm.
you hold your swords, all of that stuff I think really is embodying what Japanese
Yeah.
culture is about. And I think they're knocking it out of the park.
No, everything, yeah, in that sense, like everything has meaning. And I think to a lot of individuals who maybe don't have the greatest knowledge on Japanese culture, when we think about these types of very deep cultures that are coming into the modern industrial age, right? Having
Hmm.
guns, having commerce, having trade routes, etc. Totonaga does a really good job I think understanding that there is change, but change needs to be done on his own terms for the best of his country and his people. And you're seeing that with his very intricate decision making and, to be honest, like manipulative, like secret spy stuff going on.
Yeah. But he also feels the most honorable.
No, 100%. And I think it's because he's doing it not for power, because when we think about Ishido-san,
That's the guy that we keep flashing to, who's kind of like opposed to him, right? That's trying to get the rest
Yeah.
of the people against him.
yes, he's I
Okay.
guess the leader of the group of dudes.
Yeah, why can't I not think of the name? Like they're in charge of
No
the
fucking
different
clue.
prefectures and stuff, but
Because they
yeah,
suck and we don't care. But
like one more coffee or something today.
yeah. But even Ochiba's mom in the episode 8 has this one tidbit where like he comes from nothing. He is not of
Oh,
royal
Ishido,
blood or
Ishido.
whatever. Yeah, Ishido.
Yeah.
So when we think about that, if we think about in terms of money grubbing and power, remember the samurai culture in Bushido, like one of the lowest things was being a merchant because you dealt with money and money was dirty. And so
Mm,
in the sense of power, Ishido really only wants power and he wants what's best for his interests at the behest of Japan's total interest, right? Because we don't know
right.
what the Catholics or the Portuguese individuals under the Catholic Church would have done to Japan had they been able to 100% come through, much like we've seen in other cultures, other native cultures,
Hmm.
where it's crashed all the way through, and those cultures are completely different.
Hmm.
And Japan has stayed relatively whole over the course of. So we see the benefit, but now we see why the decision making was so important and why Toranaga is, to a degree, one of the most honorable characters because he's looking out for all of these things while being like, tactical
Yeah,
genius.
totally. And also trying to just like save his own life.
Yeah,
Like yeah, he's balancing these people who want to just attack him,
yeah,
knock him out, kill him, all the thing. At the same time, he's fighting for the culture
yeah,
and kind of the future of Japan as a whole, which is so
yeah.
good. Like
So good,
he's
dude.
he's doing such an amazing job of like
Yeah,
being stoic. I feel like I'm saying that a lot today. And also like a great leader and showing emotional depth and
yeah.
being tactical and being like intelligent. He's doing a hell of a job. Like the cast is so good in this. But
The dialogue
yeah,
really good
yeah,
too.
we'll see. I haven't watched episode 8 yet, and I
Ooh,
can't wait to
man.
dive into it. It just dropped today.
So good,
Is
dude.
it? Yeah.
So good.
Did we talk about the episode? We should talk about how episode 7 ends though,
Oh,
with
so
his son.
yeah,
Yeah.
Nakado. Oh my God, why am I forgetting all this? Anyway, his son, at the end of this episode or episode 7, and just to make mention, because in episode 8 you'll also see Toranaga is making a lot of sacrifices and utilizing a lot of these happenstances to further, quote unquote, his agenda. And to say that he's heartless is 100% the opposite, right? He's trying to utilize these things to not in vain.
Hmm.
But at the end of episode 7, his son, as we already know, wants to do. And even in episode 7, we hear Toranaga say, why do people who've never seen war want it so bad?
Right.
Lack of a better term.
Hmm.
And so his son really is stepping out and trying to prove to his father, prove to himself, give himself a little bit more clout behind his words and his feelings and his ambitions. And he ends up trying to attack Toranaga's brother who betrays him. And his son slips and falls on a wet rock, hits the back of his head, and dies slowly in the
Hmm.
water amongst the rain in front
Yeah.
of his
What's
uncle.
beautiful about that?
What's beautiful about this?
Yeah, I believe the actor is Yukikara Kuda, but I could be wrong. Who plays the son?
Oh yeah, it was just to your point. It was just a beautiful sense of acting and scene to show kind of everything culminating. Right, we see Toranaga kind of lose mostly everything with the earthquake, and then we see that his uncle or his brother might help him out, and then we see that his brother is a betrayer, and then we see kind of this like last amount of honor trying to be pushed through to kind of help make things better, and it ends with something mistaken, not necessarily defeat, right? So it's not necessarily
Hmm.
an honorable death per se, and then he cracks his head open, He's breathing slowly and slower as the camera is panning away from him. He turns his head slightly to the right, and you see all the blood flow into the pool as the rain drips down, and his uncle looks down at him and says, "What's beautiful in this?" And it is beautiful in the sense that war is never what you want it to be. And these sacrifices, in that sense, need to be used in ways that are beneficial for the cause or whatever. But in episode 8, Toranaga really sends all this home. So it's not super sad. I mean, super sad, but it's not super sad in episode 8.
Yeah. I think it just, well said. It goes back to that idea of like beauty in the imperfection, and war is very much like that, right? And Toranaga, even being at like such a young age and having to, even the story retelling of how he conquered, it's like, oh, he did it in one blow, the warrior kid, but yeah, even that story was kind of flipped just because, history is told by the victors, and at that day he was the victor. But I mean, and he didn't even say it. It was other people's like impression of what he did. Like, oh, I heard he took off that guy's head in one blow, and Toranaga just keeps replaying it in his mind, which I think is fascinating. It kind of haunts him, and it kind of dictates the way he looks at war. Thus, I think kind of maybe forces him to surrender at the end of episode 7, and at the behest of all of his generals. So, man, I can't wait to see what they do with it. But we're gonna have to revisit this whole show once it's done.
100%.
We got. Let's see. We have episode 8. You watched it already, but 9 and 10. So we got 3 more episodes for this miniseries, and that's it. There's no plans to make another show after this, and I think they're going all out and doing a fantastic job. So I can't wait to get into episode 8.
Yeah, my prediction is Hiroyuki Tsunoda, maybe best supporting actor, and then Anna Sawai, best leading actress.
Leading actress? Wow, right on.
Yeah. I would say.
Yeah, I would say she's a leading. Yeah, that's a pretty good call out. Yeah, Hiroyuki Sanada should be a leading man too. That's Toranaga, but I agree. But I think she has more of an opportunity because she's shown so much range in her emotions.
Bruh.
But I don't know. I mean, episode 8 could change all that. So
it does not. It makes it better. It makes a better case for it. So
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to get into it. We gotta definitely check that out. Hopefully all of you listening have been able to watch a lot of this stuff. If there's something that we're not talking about that we should be covering, please let us know. This was a fun time. It's great to have Drake back, and we'll get Scott hopefully back on the next episode as well. Any final thoughts or closing words, Drake?
Live, laugh, love.
Thank you, home shop.
Home decor.
Yeah, home decor.
I saw it at
shop.
TJ Maxx. I thought it was really poignant.
it's perfect. And thanks so much, everybody. Connect with us on social media if you want to see more of what we're doing all the time. We may or may not be dropping some merch, so keep an eye on that. We'll be showing it on social media. So follow us at Joystick Show anywhere you check out social media, and we'll catch you next time.
Hey, thanks for shaking it with us.
The Joystick Show. The Joystick Show.